Okay, so we are now recording. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now and just basically go over the directions that I wrote. Basically, this assignment is something that I built by myself due to KHIM competencies and accreditation standards. We had to put in group projects for you guys. And you'll notice if anybody hasn't taken 2339 yet, we're also going to have a group project in that class, but it will be open majority throughout the semester. It's not going to be like the last 3 or 4 weeks. And so I kind of tried to make this one easier, and a lot of the assignments that we're going through right now, they should be able to assist you with this. I just think a lot of y'all are kind of getting nervous and freaking out about the fact of how to have your group meetings or how to discuss what you're going to do throughout the group meetings. And so I'm going to go over that with y'all. I'm going to share my screen. Share.
Will I be able to see what you're doing when I watch it again or listen to it or however you're putting it up?
Yeah, if you want to rewatch it on your computer, but like I was saying earlier, Michaela, all we're going to do is I'm just going to show the directions in the class. So it's everything that y'all can already see. I'm not going to do anything different.
Okay.
Or show anything different. I'm just going to pull up the actual class. That way so everybody can see it. Okay? So can y'all see the quality assessment? Everybody that is logged on?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Okay, so the title of the assignment is Death Trends. And so the purpose of this is, our main objective to get y'all through this is to give y'all experience with teams and assigning meeting times and dates and ways to just work as a group to complete a task. So that is what our competency is. And this assignment, like I said, I don't want y'all to overthink it or freak out about it. It's really, and which I know this, so y'all might think, well, I sound crazy, but it really is easy, okay? So basically what the objectives is for y'all is y'all are going to work as teams, and I have suggested Google Slides. If none of y'all have used Google Slides, there's lots of resources out there, and I have provided y'all with some. What the benefits of Google Slides is that it allows you to all see the same assignment at the same time. So when y'all are uploading something, everybody can make edits in addition to the exact same assignment. So whenever y'all get ready to download it into PowerPoint to do your individual presentation, and then that way everybody has the exact same thing, okay? So the purpose of this assignment is I made up some data from TSTC Memorial, okay? So that is one hospital, right? And then I gave y'all an example of easy research that I did through CDC, and there's lots of other resources out there. I know Michaela had said that she was focusing on Hospital Compare, and that's an assignment that y'all have already done, right, within the last module. So there's other resources that y'all can use to try to pull data and compare. So a comparative report basically is where you're taking one hospital's information and then trying to compare it for the 3 years. You can do a yearly trend, or you can do a trend of the 3 years. So I'll expect y'all to do like line graphs. Compare TSTC Memorial, say, is their data, is it higher for 2016 as it is 2017 or 2018? Is it comparative as to the national standard or to any other hospitals? Do they have less deaths in 2018 than 2018 at another facility or the national standards? And then also I know that there was one group that said they were going to do, I think it was group 3, going to do heart disease. And if you do use heart disease, I do expect y'all to use other information than the information I provided, okay, because there's so much more out there. That was just one easy research that I did just to show you how easily available the information is. And so as a group and a team, what y'all are going to do is decide what information that y'all want to compare, okay, for those 3 years. And I know group 3 too was mentioning of like using the hospital compare and going to compare different hospitals to TSTC Memorial data. So the TSTC memorial data is going to be for any hospital, for any disease that y'all choose. Y'all are going to apply that, and it may not seem like it makes sense, like if you choose AIDS, like TSTC memorial had 17 deaths in 2017 for AIDS, which is unlikely, but it's still just giving y'all the aspect of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
To everybody? Okay. And then, so y'all use that data and then compare it with any findings that you have. So each individual in the groups that I posted, I want all of you as an individual, though, to complete research on the disease that the group has agreed on, and then upload something of their own findings. And then through messaging, text, if there's a time that y'all can all agree on to do, possibly, I don't know if any of y'all have WebEx logins, but Google Hangouts is a good resource. Y'all have Google emails. And then I know, like Nicole Sulak, she has already created the PowerPoint and shared it with her teammates. And then that will allow for you all to go in and be able to make edits and talk about it and anything that y'all want to add or change. And then just as long as everything, there's group participation, individual equal participation, and as long as there's some participation. I don't care. I know some will possibly participate more than others, but you will be graded on an individual grade for participation in the class. Utilization of the discussion boards, asking me questions individually. I've had a couple that have been good about that, and I do ask that if there are questions asked, like share them in the group discussion board, and that way, so in case somebody has the same type-like question, they can refer to that. But that doesn't mean I don't mind, answering one-on-one. I'm always available, text after 5. I'm in evenings, during the days, whenever. I make myself available for y'all, and I want y'all to all, understand that. And I do have virtual office hours, and I decided to do this because my daughter, she does tutoring on this night, and it's easier for me just to come back up to the office and do it. But that doesn't mean my virtual office hours are the only time that I'm available to y'all, to ask me questions. And so by the finalization of the project, after y'all all meet, what y'all are going to do is each individual one is going to download. Y'all are going to assign who's going to present each slide. And so what I suggest in the Google Slides, there's option to do narration or notes, just like in PowerPoint. So it's exactly like PowerPoint if anybody has experience with PowerPoint. And then, so what y'all are going to do is download the presentation and say, like group 1, the first person is going to record slides 1 and 2. And then 3 and 4 goes to number 2, and then 5 and 6, or 4 and 5 go to number 3, who there's 3 in each of y'all's groups. And then what y'all are going to do is share your downloaded PowerPoint of the slides that you presented, and then share them with your team lead. And then what the team lead is going to do, this is the only additional work that the team lead has to do, they're going to take the PowerPoint and select the slides. They're going to create a new PowerPoint and select all the slides that have recordings from each of their teammates and put it all together in one. And then that's going to be a full presentation of their full PowerPoint that y'all did. Does that make sense?
If we did it in Google Slides with all of us, can we just download the whole already done PowerPoint that has narration with it?
Yes, you can, but you can't record in Google Slides is the only thing. So once you download it, once it's completed and everybody's done, with the narration or adding, descriptions to the slides and everything, then like Nicole, you would say, I'm going to present slides 1 and 2. Okay? And on slide 1, which is going to be an easy slide, I just want the first person. I had said that I think, and I still want it to be like this, but the first slide, I want you to have, like the title, what your trend is going to be over, what your disease that you're choosing, and who are the members of your group or what your group number is, if you're group 1, 2, or 3. And then the second slide is where you're going to start presenting. And then so you'll just download it and present, say, Nicole, you're going to do slides 1 and 2. Okay, and then you're going to save your downloaded PowerPoint. And then who else is, Dawn is going to do slides 3 and 4. And then she'll save that to her computer and then send it to you if you're the group lead. And then Molly Holland will record slides 5 and 6 and then download it, or she'll download it record those slides and send it to you. And then what you're going to do is take all 3 of those PowerPoints and just build another one and drag and drop those slides into a new one. That way, so it's a full presentation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. So basically, I mean, that's it. Just as long as y'all can give me 3 to 4 graphs, y'all can compare year to year, but I want you to try to look at it because it's comparing trends. And so a trend is what happens over the years, right? So just compare, if you can, 2016 to 2018 trends, and then you can do individual year trends. It doesn't matter. Like I said, it's completely up to y'all. And I will just be doing, there's 2 grades that you'll get. You'll get a group presentation grade or in participation, which is going to be, everybody gets the same grade in that. And then you'll have an individual grade based on your own participation and how often you interact throughout the group.
Would you like us to include a slide? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Would you like us to include a slide that describes what we are researching?
Yes, because in the beginning, like I said, on your group, in your very title slide, you're going to have, like the name of the class, the group number, like group 3, or your group 1, and then what your disease is, what your trend is going to be over.
But would you like the definition of that or any information about it other than what we're going to have in our graphs?
Completely up to you. The more detail, the better. Like I always say, the more you have and the more, because remember that y'all are part of a quality initiative committee, and you are, the purpose of basically quality assurance and quality committees is to try to enable better quality care for patients, right? So if there's anything that you can get out of this and show how the trends based at TSTC Memorial, and like I know there was one group that's going to compare certain hospitals to it. Well, if TSTC Memorial is way higher than other hospitals that they compared to, and then there's obviously got to be some type of quality, something that can be reported to the CDC and HHS that can, why there's that type of diseases that are so high in that area. That's why all diseases are reported to CDC and Health and Human Services, because they use that data to figure out why certain populations in certain areas are having those issues. Does that make sense?
Well, can I talk?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. My biggest problem is I have heart disease.
Okay.
And I spent all day long yesterday trying to find 2016, 2017, and 2018 data all in one, and it was next to impossible. I found 2016 and 2017 with no problem, but they just don't have 2018 updated yet.
You see, with 2018 being so recent, and if there's a possibility, I mean, just like even you saw that data that I shared, like, let me go down.
Yeah, that was estimated. Which
they did an estimation. So, I mean, and if you have to, if you want to do 15, 16, and 17, then that's absolutely fine, because I know we're only 3 months into 2017, so that would be fine. Have a good evening. You too. So, yeah. No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Good.
So, yeah, if I wanted to do another or just compare two, or if there is any information on 2018 that you can find,
okay,
that's great.
Okay. My next question is, I'm looking at TSTC Memorial. I'm looking at your data here. And in order for me to compare it, like if I want to compare with other hospitals, I need to get the national average. So my question to you is, how do I do that? How do I get the national average for TSTC for these years?
Okay, well, you're not getting the national average for TSTC because they're one facility. They're just the facility that you work at, okay? So the national average is what you're trying to get is for the whole United States. Or you can compare it the world.
Then I use them.
Yes, and you're going to try to compare the data from what the national average is to what the TSTC Memorial data is. Is TSTC like way out there, or do they have way many more deaths than what there should be compared to the national average? Or were they higher in 2016 than the national? Were they lower? Were they
Right.
Just anything that you can use to compare? That's what, a comparative study is.
There is a number that you come up with. You take, how is it? The number of deaths times the population of the city this hospital's in, or the number of deaths divided by the population of the city that the hospital's in, times 100,000 gives you that percentage.
Which is the 271 that we talked about?
Gives you the percentage. I guess that's what I'm looking for, because when you go to Hospital Compare, they have that for each hospital. They have that data.
And if that's what you choose to do, if you want to compare, I'm not saying you have to stick to national averages, but if you want to compare it to individual hospitals, that's perfectly fine too.
But I'm saying, is that the right way to do it? Am I calculating this correct?
Okay, so what you would want to do is, so the report that you found where you said that there was 272.1 per 100,000.
Yeah.
Is that in a certain population, or is that worldwide?
I think that was worldwide. I think
worldwide?
So, yeah. Or United States.
United States, right. So what is the actual population of the United States? And then if you did, I don't know if you would divide the 271. Hold on, I have to think about this. You're making me think, Michaela.
No, it's 357,200,000 is a population of the United States. I think 2018, one of those years.
Okay, so you divide 100,000 into that. Okay, so you're going to take the 358 million, divide it by 100,000. How many times will 100,000 go into that? And then you multiply that by the 272.1. And that's how you get your average. But then you're going to have to figure out, if you want to compare it for each year, what the population was for those 3 years.
Right, but what I'm talking about is doing it for the hospital, the TSTC. That's the only one I want to do it for the year 2016, 2017, and 2018. It gives an average.
Right, and because there's not a population, don't worry about trying to figure out the population of TSTC Memorial. That's just the population and the people that have died in that hospital for whatever disease you choose, okay? And then so you're going to compare, if you want to find, say you're going to look for the national, you're trying to find the U.S. population for those 3 years. And for 1 year, you said there was 272.1 for every 100,000. Okay, so you're going to do this formula. You're going to do the population divided by 100,000 and then times that by 272.1. And that's going to give you what the national average is for that death in the United States. So you're going to want to do that for those 3 years. And then you're just going to compare the data. Was it higher in 2016 for the national than it was TSTC? Was it lower? Just like do that comparison, and then you're going to build a chart, and the chart, like the charts, what the purpose of the charts are is just a line graph so you compare. Was TSTC higher, lower, and higher, or was it the opposite? Does that make sense?
No, I'm lost. I don't understand how to get the average for TSTC. That's what I'm saying. How do I compare TSTC to all the other information I have? I don't know where to begin.
Okay, well, you're not, so you're given the information already, like your table. So all you're wanting to do is get a table and get information for your national average or individual hospitals, however you want to compare it to national or anything. Okay, so you're not looking for an average at TSTC Memorial. What you're going to do is, I just want like the line graphs, bar graphs, everything. Like if you have one hospital or the national average, and you're going to compare it to TSTC Memorial. Like say you can do line graphs, you can do bar charts, you can do anything just to compare it. Like I think you're overthinking it. I think if you just, because you're already given the data, so you know how many deaths were for each year for TSTC Memorial. So you already have that information.
Yeah, it's real low because when I compare this data with the other information I get, it doesn't even show up on the graphs because it's so low. It's 42 deaths, 44 deaths, and 54 deaths.
For which place?
For TSTC Memorial.
And then what do you mean it doesn't show up?
when I put this on a line, on a let's say a bar graph, comparing it to, let's say if I compared it to the other information that I guess that was a estimated 325,000 people were going to die total for men, 250. And when I make a graph, or that bar graph comparing TSTC to that other information, it's like a dot in the sand.
Right, and so what you're going to have to do is you're going to either have to increase your numbers, and then that's fine, but that's where I would use a bar, or not a bar chart, but a line graph. And the line graph is going to show, and you're just going to have to expand your graph to show the difference. Because
so
if you think about it, TSTC Memorial is just one hospital, so they're not going to have as many deaths as the whole nation, right? I mean, was there more deaths considered if you, like you said, if you compared it to an individual hospital? Was there more deaths or less deaths?
TSTC has the lowest rates in the hospital in the United States, from what I've seen.
Okay, so do you feel like I need to increase the deaths?
Well, when I look at like Hospital Compare, I mean, it's amazing for 42 deaths in 1 year. I mean, that's a gold standard. That hospital needs to be. That hospital needs. The whole world needs to know how good this hospital is.
Approved. Okay, so then would it be easier for y'all? Has anybody started if I increase the numbers to give y'all something to compare to? I was just thinking, because the information that I found, and I'm telling, this is like I built this assignment, from scratch by myself, and I was just trying to give y'all something that y'all could do to report to, a quality assurance or quality initiative committee, and base it on just how the hospital's performance compares to the national average, in layman terms. There's not going to be nothing exact, but like if you compare like how the national average was, like when you compare the years, was it higher for TSTC Memorial than it was for the national average in 2016? Was it higher or lower? And then do that for all years, and that's what I was going with. But if I need to compare or, increase the numbers, what does everybody else think?
For ours, the numbers are pretty good. They're actually a little on the high side, but maybe if you guys picked a more specific topic instead of just generalized heart disease.
Well, see, I didn't pick heart disease. I mean, y'all can.
No, I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'm sorry.
Her group.
Right.
Yeah. There's 3.
And see, like the reason why I did heart disease is just like an example, because it's the most common thing, that like people talk about, and just to compare, like, let me go to the data. Where is it at that I posted?
Does anybody else have this done? I'm more visual, and I've never done anything like this. I can write data all day long, on the spreadsheet, but I don't understand how to compare this with. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. I need to see it.
Okay. Maybe if you put an example graph of how to use the data that you found specifically compared in that, maybe that would help. Because 319,000 compared to, I think it was like 17 or 24.
Yeah, 24 for women or for men.
Yeah. Maybe if yours is so big, you add a couple zeros.
I mean, you possibly
like if you need to.
Data I was just trying to give y'all, because like when you're at an individual hospital, and like my experience is at a critical access hospital. It was a small hospital, so a lot of our patients, we had very little deaths because everybody was always usually transferred out if it was a strong, or something that was where they needed to be at a bigger facility. And so, but we still had to report any deaths. I had to do all death registers. I had to do all cancer registries. I had to do, all of that, and all that was reported. And then they turn around and report those registries to the CDC and, Health and Human Services. And then that's how they initiate quality improvement for physicians and hospitals to specify. That's why our data and everything that we offer is so important, because it allows us to give them that information so it can be turned into initiatives for improvement of quality care and treatment of diseases. So if you, Michaela, feel like y'all need to change my data, I mean, that's absolutely fine. Like I said, I was just kind of picking, and like if you'll notice, like I did for men and women, I did men higher in 16, 17, and then the national average information that I found from one study on estimation of what it would be 2018, but 16, 17 accurate, you'll notice that men were higher both years, but then, or it kept increasing all 3 years, and then women's decreased, for example. That's a comparative study. Does that make sense? To see how women's decreased over the years, but then at TSC Memorial, it increased after year 17.
Right, to 22.
Mm-hmm. And then, but the national thing decreased. And then the study that I found, though, the only difference in what y'all are doing is it was comparing 2 diseases. So it was comparing cancer and heart disease. I mean, do y'all feel like if we make it to where y'all compare just 2 diseases, instead of from TSTC Memorial to total death?
Yeah, because that's what I'm finding when I'm doing my research is in the hundreds and thousands. And I've even found it where they do state by state, and it's in the hundreds and thousands. And then when you go back to TSTC and you see these small numbers, you're like, how do you compare? You know, you got 300.
Where I was going with it is the comparative part of it is because that's just one hospital. How does it compare to the national average? Are they is it equally consistent? Like, is there higher deaths in 1 year than the national average? Is there more? Is there less? Is there, instead of thinking about the actual numbers, like, how can you compare this data to the national averages?
Then I would have to say that it's going higher as each year for total death.
For TSTC Memorial?
For TSTC, the death is going higher.
Okay, so there's 42, 44, 54, and then you go to the national and see how the national is compared. It's higher in 16, lower in 17, but then it's higher than 2016 and 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So you can compare the totals, you can compare the men and women, you can compare, I'm going to do it in any which way you can.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And like I said, if y'all feel like that y'all need to compare 2 diseases, I just still want y'all to compare it with, because like the whole point of it is that y'all are on a committee and y'all are pulling data for, and like I said, I'm usually really good verbally in my directions, and if there's something that y'all feel I need to add, please let me know.
So I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So when you're saying that we are part of this committee and we're presenting said data, and when we're recording the slides, are you wanting us to pretend that we're like the committee member, like doing the presentation, like if they were standing in front of people? Or are we just saying, looking at this graph, blah, blah, blah? Or are we supposed to say, like in the title slide, like our initiative is, we're going to show that, maybe we need to purchase new equipment for radiology because, we're missing diagnoses because of this rate? Or, what are you wanting it that specific?
Stuff like in this, if you're wanting to add stuff in there like that, that is fine, but try to, and it can be as simplistic as it can be. So what y'all need to do is, like, for y'all's presentation, you're going to narrate everything, and of course, every graph or chart, you always need to summarize it and tell you what the chart means. Of course, it gives a visual presentation, but you also need to, because you're presenting it to a committee. So the committee is you're just informing them of how their hospital compares to either other hospitals or to the national average. Is it higher? Is it lower? Is there something they need to do? So just give them the data, and then it will be up to the QI committee to decide that. Y'all aren't the full QI committee. You're just presenting information to them, so that way a decision can be made, or if there's something that they need to do.
So just keep it simple and just basically describe what you put on the slide.
Describe what you put on the slide.
Gotcha.
And just give detail and just specify, like, how common, like if you want to do an introduction to what the presentation is going to be about, you know, do that on slide 1 with bullet points, and then add your graphs. And it's just to get y'all as a group to work as a team to build an educational presentation for the QI committee.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know how many more questions I have.
Okay. Well, if you'll have a lot more, then I promise. Bring it on.
Back to your original question about if you should add anything, I think because TSTC Memorial's their data is so low that the more specific your disease is, the easier it will be to compare them through a graph.
Mm-hmm.
So if that helps, like group 3 doing such a broad topic, that's very difficult to compare hundreds of thousands.
Because that's almost
visually
one disease in the world, right?
Yeah. It'd be easier if they did something like strep throat.
Yes. Well, you usually don't see deaths, but like staph infection.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Like a specific cancer, not generalized cancer. Yeah.
I just gave examples, and it's up to y'all to pick.
Okay. Can I increase the numbers? You said that's no problem?
That's completely up to your team if you want to.
That's what I'll end up doing. I still want to do heart disease. It's just, you know, there's thousands of people that die each year, even in hospitals. I mean, the hospital.
It's the #1 cause of death, you know, anything related to heart disease. And if you wanted to pick, like, say, stroke or there's so many different levels of heart disease. You know, heart disease is a broad topic. There's so many different types of diseases. You know, is it going to be like hypertensive heart disease? Is it going to be, you know, blood pressure? I mean, just anything like that, or aneurysm. I mean, anything that can be, you know, there's so many that fall into that. So if you wanted to break down heart disease and go for one specific topic that falls into that, that would allow you to compare the data better. Like, you're going to find, like, maybe if you go for, like, what disease would it be? I'm trying to think of something that you don't ever hear of.
Heart failure. Heart failure sounds good.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and if you do heart failure, say, you might find that TSTC's data is way higher. So just figure out how to compare it and just present that to your committee. That's all you're doing.
It's way lower. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, and if you want to compare that, even if the national average is 100, if it's 100 for men and 88 for women, and then it goes back and forth, I mean, just basically you're just trying to compare data and make sense of it to notify your committee about it.
Because I already have tons of information sheets.
Okay.
I'm not
like I said, as long as you communicate with your teams, everybody's putting in their average, everybody agrees on something, and then that's perfect.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so, we're going to do like 6 slides and do one for the intro. And then, so as far as comparing, can we just like choose basic, like just do one total one with age and then compare that and then do another graph? I'm just throwing out examples, but male and female, you know, like
male and female, the age range, like if y'all want to do age 20 to 40 that died from this disease in each year. If y'all wanted to do, we compare 20 to 40, 40 to 60, however y'all want to do it. Just whatever data y'all want to present to prove how it compares.
Perfect. Okay, that's all I need to know. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, I'll do my best. That's all I can say.
Y'all will do great.
That's all I can say.
Y'all will do great, and then just review it. And once y'all know that if it's something like a committee, just like if y'all were presenting to like Health and Human Services, or if y'all were submitting this information to anybody, just like how does it compare? I mean, like use as many graphs as you can, because visual, most people are more visual learners than they are, you know, like Michaela said, more visual than they are hearing it and actually reading it. So that's why the purpose of doing lines and graphs and charts And especially, I know, like, when I was the HM director at the hospital, I did so many lines and graphs on, like, census, and I broke it down by insurances and broke it down on admissions and, you know, inpatient stay days. I mean, showed so many graphs to show, and I would present that, you know, to the administrator and during our monthly meetings. And it was easier for them just to look at that, you know, to kind of see how our trends went from month to month, and then based on each insurance. And that just showed whether our trends were staying, you know, our trends were staying at the top. And of course, being in a rural area, most of our insurance was Medicare, Medicaid. And so those trends were always high, but we like to see too, because the credentialing and stuff that we did with the, you know, private payers and self-pay was always low, but we like to see when those increases, you know, happen and what months it was and based on what diseases. So that's all data that, you know, your hospital likes to look for. So just, yeah, present it. I think y'all are going to do great. Don't overthink it. Work as a team, and y'all will all be fine.
How many graphs did you want?
3 to 4. And like I said, if you can't do that, but there's so many different ways you can present it. Like I said, in line graphs, you can do comparative pie charts. You can do, and like I said, you know, the line graphs where it goes through the years, or you can do individually year by year where they're stacked together with a bar graph. Just, yeah, be creative. You can do a graph for each year. You can do a graph for the trend for the 3 years. I just want to see y'all compare the data and utilize the skills and everything that y'all have done.
Would the data table that you used for TSTC count? Because I had it set up where both the data tables would be next to each other, and then 2 graphs interpret the data.
If you build your own table, then that's considered a graph to me.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Well, I'm going to stop recording, and then I want to chat and ask y'all a couple other questions, you know, outside recording. So let me stop that. Okay.